Hello and welcome everyone, it is me, the Level, also known as the Power to Do is back for you with another Speed Duel deck profile. When I initially got my Speed Duel decks, I also decided to pick up the Ancient Ruler Rises Spirit of the Pharaoh deck. So let's quickly talk about it. Start with the skill, the one thing that makes this deck kind of run, the Ancient Ruler Rises skill. This gets flipped over at the start of the duel, and you can apply the following skills. Once per turn, you can send a level 2 zombie from your deck to the graveyard, and then place one of either the first sarcophagus, the second sarcophagus, or the third sarcophagus from your deck graveyard, or that is banished face up in your spell and trap zone, and that is treated as being placed by the effect of the first sarcophagus. And also, each spirit of the Pharaoh you control gains attack equal to the number of Pharaoh's Servant or Pharaonic Protector on your field and in your graveyard times 900. Very sick skill. Of course, dumping zombies from the deck is, in any format in Yu-Gi-Oh's history, always a great thing to do. And easily setting up your Spirit of the Pharaoh with this is kind of nice, since you can set the first sarcophagus on your turn if you start off the duel. In your opponent's end phase, you get the second sarcophagus, and on your turn, you can use this again to place the third, to summon the Spirit of the Pharaoh on your third turn, which is kind of nice. Just makes this card with an incredibly cool artwork that is usually absolutely unplayable, semi-playable. So let's get into the cards that we've chosen to kind of go with this. Let's put them over here. Playing one copy of Spirit of the Pharaoh. This can't be normal summoned or set, must be special summoned by the first sarcophagus. And if it is special summoned, you can target up to 4 normal zombie monster that are level 2 or lower in your graveyard and special summon them. You won't really be summoning a lot with this guy because we only run 2 targets and 1 servant, 1 protector. I decided to go with one of each just for some flavor. But you do run a couple level 2 zombie targets in this that aren't, the vanillas, of course. So that's the thing. But yeah. Just a beatstick, essentially. You're trying to get to this guy on like a turn 3 and then maybe close out the game on that same turn, because if you were able to send at least one of your vanillas, this guy is already 3,400 and in a 4,000 life points format. This is already almost game. So yeah, you're trying to basically punch your opponent really hard with this guy. What you're doing until then, and what is supposed to keep you alive, are a couple of vampire cards. I've opted for 1 vampire tribute monster. I think you can play Vampire Lord instead of this, or opt to play 2. Same applies for the Vampire Lord. You could also be playing 2 Vampire Lords, maybe cut like a Rhoda later down the line, or like a Vampire Spell Trap. I opted for Curse. If this guy's a drop at battle, you can pay 500 and then summon it back in your next standby, but it gains 500 attack. Which is kind of cute. For the rest of the vampire lineup, we are on 2 copies of Retainer, 2 copies of Familiar. You can send these. You can send Retainer off of your skill, which is kind of nice. And then you can just summon the Retainer back off its effect from the grave by pitching a Vampire Spell Trap or a Vampire card. Because you can summon both of these from the graveyard by sending a Vampire card from your field or hand to the graveyard. But they get banished if they leave the field after they were summoned by their own effect. Each on summon just pays 500 to add a different kind of flavor of vampire card. Retainer pays 500 to add a vampire spell trap, and Familiar pays 500 to add a vampire monster. So you have kind of this small vampire engine in here that is basically just there to keep you alive while you're trying to set up your Spirit of the Pharaoh. But both of these are rather neat, and sending Retainer is incredibly sick, since it already sets up a lot. Because this deck isn't very normal summon reliant, I am opting to play 3 DD Warrior Lady as my 3-off. Just a good set. Set this, your opponent probably doesn't know what it is. It just eats a monster, banishes it. And even, if you're just summoning this and running into stuff to get it off the board, to make maybe room for your Spirit of the Pharaoh to punch through, it's just kind of nice. So yeah, the Warrior Lady, great card. Would absolutely advise running this if you're trying to make Spirit of the Pharaoh work as well as you can. As a one-off, of course, with the Warrior Ladies, we're playing the Rhoda. Just a 4th copy so that we find Warrior Lady more often, which is kind of neat. Playing one Vampire's Desire, I think you can definitely opt to cut this. This is the weaker of the Vampire spell traps that I'm running, I think. This either allows you to target a face-up monster you control, send a Vampire monster with a different level from your deck to the graveyard, and if you do that, the monster you initially targeted gets turned into the level of the monster you sent. But you can also target a Vampire monster in your graveyard and send a monster that you control to the graveyard, and then if you do, you summon the initial target from your graveyard. So you have like a nice way to maybe get like a curse back if it's already sent to the graveyard, or just like a revival spell in general for your vampire stuff. Desire hasn't really, come up a lot in testing. I think this is definitely the weaker of the two Vampire spell traps that I'm playing. The other one is Awakening. Awakening just summons a Vampire from deck, but it gets popped in the end phase. It just feels better to, search an Awakening, set it, and then have like a body to chump block with, which is kind of nice. But Desire is just like nice to have, so you have a second target. But you could, as previously mentioned, also opt for like a second Vampire tribute monster, like a Vampire Lord, a second Curse, or 2 Lord, depending on how you're feeling. In, the Spirit of the Pharaoh deck, we are of course also forced to play all of the Sarcophagi, the first, the second, and the third. The effects of these guys are pretty simple. These two can only be placed to the field by the effect of the first Sarcophagus. And the first one just says during the end phase of your opponents, you can just put a second or third Sarcophagus from your deck into your spell and trap zone, and then if you have all three on the field, you can send them all three to summon a Spirit of the Pharaoh from your hand or deck, which is why you're only running one, because you probably won't need a second one. And also because drawing it kind of sucks. So yeah, be prepared for that in 20 cards to happen quite a lot. For just a generic trap slot, I'm opting for Windstorm of Etaqua. This swaps the battle position of all monsters your opponent controls. The main concern with this is to be as high impact as possible. But also be like something you can activate if you need to free up a spell trap zone. So for example, if you had like one of these set and you already have 2 Sarcophagi up, you wouldn't be able to get the third one on the board because you have a blocked spell trap zone. This way you can just flip the Etaqua, kind of say screw it, and then place the third, summon the Pharaoh, and hopefully win the game. So yeah, I was opting, before the new Speed Duel banlist, I was opting for Wall of Disruption in this slot, just because it's an incredibly high impact card in this format. I think you can opt out of DD Warrior Lady and play Wall of Disruption instead in this slot. And then for the Warrior Lady, you can play like Goblin Zombies, I think another great card for the Speed Duel format, that also has some good synergy with the rest of your deck. But Windstorm of Etaqua just feels good. Just a card that keeps you alive for a turn if you see it. So that's nice, especially since you can chain it to potential back row removal. You just need to hope that your opponent, puts a monster on the board first. Which can be cute in some situations, and as shown earlier, last card of the deck is the Vampire Awakening. That just summons a Vampire monster from the deck, but pops it in the end phase. Yeah, this has been my Speed Duel Spirit of the Pharaoh deck. This is not really something good for Speed Duel purposes even, but it's incredibly fun. I think Spirit of the Pharaoh is like one of those old cards that just has like an incredibly sick artwork, but like just sucks because it's, a DM era boss monster that, or like a GX era boss monster rather, because Abidos was the first one to like summon this guy. But yeah, it's just like weighed down by a summoning condition that is incredibly terrible. But the skill kind of fixes it. I think this just does about everything it could be doing to like make this semi-playable. And as mentioned, with a 3400 body on your turn 3, you can definitely start, throwing some punches and maybe closing out some games. But yeah, with all that off the way, let me know what you thought of this deck profile, and if you're into Speed Duels yourself, what are you playing in that format? I've not like heard a lot about a lot of you guys in speed duels, but maybe that changes for this video. So with that out of the way, I will thank you guys very much for watching and see you guys again next time. But until then, goodbye.